Foremost means more. More training, more information, more ways to grow your business. Find out what Foremost can mean for you at foremostagent.com. Click on Foremost Means More.
Boris Feldman is a veteran securities lawyer who has represented major corporations and their officers in more than 185 lawsuits. He is a partner at a 600-lawyer firm, Wilson Sonsini, Goodrich & Rosati. Insurance Journal's Young Ha recently caught up with him at a Professional Liability Underwriting Society D&O conference in New York, where he shared his insight on a wide range of topics. He also predicted that aggressive government actions could have a big impact on shareholder lawsuits in the next couple of years.
I think it was a good year for the carriers. There weren't many settlements. There were almost no blockbuster shareholder settlements. And a lot of the cases that got cleared out of the system were small lawsuits against Chinese reverse merger companies. And those ended up not being a big financial overhang for the D&O industry. A lot of the companies had coverage problems, and as to those that didn't, the cases settled quite cheaply. So I think it was a good year. In addition, the merger cases settled tended to be low dollar amounts. So on the whole, I think unlike prior years where there were some mega settlements, this was a pretty quiet year. It takes several years for it to be a trend, but I think if one were to look at the last few years, you have to filter out the noise. So these Chinese reverse merger cases were noise. M&A cases are down simply because M&A activity is down. But the frequency of a lawsuit being filed on a public-public merger is nearly 100%. So as M&A activity picks up in the coming year or two, you're going to see M&A lawsuits pick up. More broadly, I think that the plaintiff's bar has not recovered from the disruptions it had. A number of people went to jail, firms split up, firms went out of business, and although there remain some very powerful, very capable plaintiffs' lawyers, on the whole, I think one would say that the plaintiff securities bar is less powerful than it used to be. There are fewer great innovators than there were in the past. The financial resources are not as strong as they were. So it's not as, with exceptions, it's not as potent a force as it was. And the question is, will that change over time? Will there emerge a new generation of leaders like some of the ones who have retired or stopped practicing? Or are we now going to see sort of a lower tier plaintiff securities bar? In my mind, the greatest influencer, if that's a word, on shareholder lawsuits in the next year or two is going to be government action. It's clear that the Justice Department is revved up, state AGs are revved up, and if I were betting, I'd bet that the SEC under Mary Jo White is going to be very activist and very enforcement-oriented. If the government goes after companies more aggressively, then shareholder lawsuits will pick up. In terms of a micro focus, there's been some attention in the Wall Street Journal lately on Rule 10b5-1 plans. The plaintiff's bar hasn't ever taken those seriously. If the SEC and the plaintiff's bar start looking at those plans seriously, that could trigger a wave of activity.